Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face with his dirty sleeve. The metal beam in his hands felt heavier than it should. His arms shook as he lifted it into place on the giant machine that would help make this planet safe to live on. Just one more beam, he told himself. Then I can rest. But Jake had been saying that same thing for the past 3 hours. He had been working for 18 hours straight today. Yesterday he worked 20 hours. The day before that, 16 hours. For 6 months, Jake had barely slept. He ate his meals while working. He only stopped when his body forced him to. The other workers had gone home hours ago. The alien bosses told everyone to rest. But Jake stayed. Someone had to finish this work. The people counting on this project needed him to keep going. New Haven was supposed to be a new home for humans, but right now the air was poison. The ground was too hard to grow food. The weather was too wild for people to live safely. Jake and his team were building machines to fix all of that. These machines would clean the air and make it safe to breathe. They would soften the ground so plants could grow. They would control the weather. Jake was the best at building these machines. Everyone said so. The alien commanders said humans were amazing workers. They said Jake was the best human worker they had ever seen. This made Jake proud, but it also made him feel like he had to prove it every day. As Jake worked, he did not notice the beautiful woman watching him from the walkway above. Lady Arya Moonwhisper stood very still, her long silver hair moving in the breeze. Her pointed ears and perfect face showed she was an elf. She wore expensive clothes that sparkled in the light. But her eyes were focused only on Jake. Arya had been watching Jake work for weeks. Every day she found reasons to visit this part of the construction site. She told her guards she was checking on her family's investment. Her family was paying for much of this project. But that was not the real reason she came. She came to watch Jake work, because she had never seen anything like it. Elves lived for hundreds of years. They moved slowly and thought about everything for a long time before acting. They believed rushing was foolish, but Jake was different. He worked like his life depended on it. He worked like the whole world was counting on him. And maybe it was. Jake lifted another beam. His hands slipped and the heavy metal almost fell on his foot. He caught it just in time. His heart was beating too fast. His vision was getting blurry, but he kept working. "Sir Jake appears to be struggling," said Lady Arya's guard, a tall elf named Captain Theron. "He has been working without rest for days," Arya replied quietly. "How do humans do this? How do they push their bodies so far past what should be possible?" "It is their nature, my lady. Humans burn bright and fast. They do not have our long lives, so they try to fit everything into their short time." Arya frowned. She had been learning about humans since they arrived on New Haven. Their lives were so short compared to elves. Jake would be old and gray in just a few decades, but in that short time he might build things that would last for centuries. "It is beautiful and sad at the same time," she whispered. Jake picked up his welding tool. The bright flame would join the metal pieces together. But as he raised his arm, everything went wrong. The tool felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. His arm would not obey him. The world started spinning. Jake's knees hit the metal floor hard. The welding tool fell from his hands and clattered across the ground. He tried to stand up, but his body would not listen. He fell forward and lay still. Arya gasped and started to run toward the stairs, but Captain Theron grabbed her arm. "My lady, you cannot. It would not be proper for you to be seen caring for a human worker." "Let go of me," Arya snapped. But she knew he was right. If people saw the elven heiress running to help a human, it would cause problems. Her family had rules about how she should act. Getting too close to humans was not allowed, but she could not just leave Jake lying there alone. "Get the human medic," she ordered. "Maya Torres. Get her now." Captain Theron spoke into his communication device. "Medical emergency in Engineering Bay 7. Request Maya Torres immediately." Arya paced back and forth on the walkway. She watched Jake's still form and felt her heart breaking. This wonderful, dedicated human had worked himself into the ground. And for what? To make her family richer? To prove that humans were worth the investment? "He works too hard," she said to herself. Someone should tell him he does not have to prove himself to us anymore. My lady, Captain Theron said carefully, perhaps you should not care so much about one human. Arya turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with anger. That human has done more good work in 6 months than most elves do in 6 years. He deserves respect. Of course, my lady. I only meant, I know what you meant. Arya looked back at Jake. But you are wrong. Jake Morrison is not just any human. He is special. Down in the engineering bay, Jake could hear voices, but he could not move. His body felt like it was made of stone. His eyes would not open, but his ears still worked. Where is that medic? He heard a woman's voice say. The voice was musical and beautiful. It sounded worried. She will be here soon, my lady, a man replied. Jake's mind was foggy, but he knew that voice belonged to an elf. A female elf. And she sounded like she cared about what happened to him. I should have stopped this, the woman said. I should have told him to rest. My lady, it is not your place to manage human workers. Maybe it should be. The woman's voice was closer now, like she had moved down the stairs. Look at him, Theron. Look at what he has built. Those atmospheric processors will give life to this entire planet. And he did it because he cares. Not for money or fame. He cares about making a home for his people. Jake felt confused. Why would an elf lady care about his work? Why would she know his name? He tried to think, but his head hurt too much. My lady, please step back. The medic is coming. I want to help him. You cannot touch a human worker. The rules? Forget the rules, the woman snapped. This man is dying because he worked too hard for our project. The least we can do is make sure he lives. Jake heard footsteps running toward them. Where is he? A new voice called out. This voice Jake knew. It was Maya Torres, his oldest friend and the best medic on New Haven. Over here, the elf woman called. Maya's hands were on Jake's face, checking his pulse. Jake, you idiot, she muttered. I told you this would happen. Jake wanted to answer, but he still could not move or speak. Will he be okay? The elf woman asked. Maya looked up, surprised to see an elegantly dressed elf standing nearby. He will live, but he needs rest, real rest, not the 4 hours a night he has been getting. Thank you, the elf woman said softly. As Maya worked to help Jake, he heard the elf woman talking quietly to her guard. I have been watching him work for months, she admitted. Every day I find excuses to come here. I tell myself it is business, but that is not true. My lady, you should not say such things. Why not? It is the truth. I am fascinated by him. By all of them, really, but especially him. Do you know what he did yesterday? He worked through a sandstorm to keep the schedule on track. A sandstorm that sent everyone else running for shelter. Jake felt Maya lifting him onto a stretcher, but he kept listening to the elf woman's voice. I have lived for over 150 years, she continued. In all that time, I have never seen dedication like his. He works like every day matters, like every hour counts. We elves think we have all the time in the world, so we waste most of it. But humans know their time is short, so they make every moment count. My lady, I think I am falling in love with him. The words hit Jake like lightning. An elf was in love with him? That was impossible. Elves barely noticed humans existed. They thought humans were useful but not important. My lady, please. Such feelings are not appropriate. I know, the woman sighed, but I cannot help it. When I watch him work, I see something beautiful. I see someone who cares so much about doing good work that he forgets to take care of himself. I want to take care of him. Maya was pushing the stretcher toward the medical bay now. The voices were getting quieter. But Jake heard the elf woman say one more thing. His name is Jake Morrison, and I think he might be the most remarkable person I've ever met. As they reached the medical bay, Jake finally understood why this elf had been watching him work. She did not see him as just another human worker. She saw him as someone special, someone worth caring about. For the first time in months, Jake smiled. Jake opened his eyes slowly. White lights above him were too bright, making him squint. His whole body felt heavy and tired. The bed under him was soft, much softer than the metal floor where he had fallen. "About time you woke up," said a familiar voice. Jake turned his head and saw Maya Torres sitting in a chair next to his bed. Her brown hair was pulled back and she looked tired. Her medical uniform was wrinkled like she had been working all night. "Maya?" Jake's voice came out rough and dry. "Drink this." Maya held up a cup of water. "You have been asleep for 14 hours. Your body finally gave up and forced you to rest." Jake tried to sit up, but Maya pushed him back down. "No way. You are staying in that bed until I say you can. Leave. Do you know how scared I was when they called me? I thought you were dead." "I feel terrible," Jake admitted. His head was pounding and his muscles ached. "Good. Maybe now you will listen when I tell you to rest." Maya checked the machines connected to Jake's arm. "You were completely exhausted. Your body had no energy left. If you had kept working, you could have died." Jake closed his eyes. He remembered falling down in the engineering bay. He remembered hearing voices while he could not move. One voice had been especially clear. A woman's voice, beautiful and worried. "Maya, who brought me here?" "I did. You were unconscious in the engineering bay. But who called you? Who found me first?" Maya looked uncomfortable. "Why does it matter?" "Just tell me." "It was Lady Arya Moonwhisper and her guard. They saw you collapse and called for help." Jake's heart started beating faster. So he had not imagined it. The elf woman who had been talking about him was real. And she was Lady Arya Moonwhisper, one of the most important people on New Haven. "She seemed really worried about you," Maya added quietly. Before Jake could ask more questions, the door to his room opened. A tall alien walked in. She had green, scaly skin and yellow eyes. Jake recognized her immediately. "Commander Zara," he said, trying to sit up again. Commander Zara Veltar was Jake's boss. She was from a species called the Cathari. They looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. But they were very smart and excellent at organizing big projects. "Stay down, Morrison," Commander Zara said in her deep voice. "Torres already told me you need rest." "I can work, Commander. I just need a few minutes to—" "No." Commander Zara's voice was firm. "You will rest for 3 days. That is an order. But the atmospheric processors are 3 weeks ahead of schedule." Commander Zara sat down in another chair. Her large body made the chair look tiny. "Do you know what that means, Morrison?" Jake shook his head. "It means you and your team have done something amazing. The Galactic Construction Guild has never seen humans work so fast and so well. They are talking about hiring human engineers for projects all across the galaxy." Jake felt a mix of pride and confusion. "Really?" "Really. Other species are starting to ask for human workers specifically. They want people who work as hard as you do." Commander Zara leaned forward. "But they also want workers who stay alive long enough to finish their projects." Maya laughed. "She has a point, Jake. The Velnari from the outer systems want to hire a human team to build their new space stations," Commander Zara continued. "The Centauri Republic is asking for human engineers to help with their mining operations. Even the Elven Trade Consortium is interested." "The elves want to hire humans?" Jake asked, surprised. "Yes." "And do you know who suggested it?" Jake had a feeling he knew the answer. "Lady Arya?" Commander Zara's yellow eyes widened slightly. "You know her?" "Not exactly. I heard her name." "Well, she has been very impressed with your work. She told the consortium that humans have a special talent for getting difficult jobs done quickly." Commander Zara stood up. "Rest, Morrison. When you come back to work, we will have even bigger projects for you." After Commander Zara left, Maya pulled her chair closer to Jake's bed. "Okay, now tell me the truth. How do you know Lady Arya Moonwhisper?" "I don't really know her. I have seen her around the construction site sometimes, but I never talked to her." "She knows your name." "She does?" "She asked me specifically to make sure Jake Morrison was okay, not the human worker or the engineer. She knew your name." Jake thought about what he had heard while he was unconscious. Lady Arya had said she had been watching him work for months. She had said she was fascinated by him. Maya, do you think it is possible for an elf to like a human? I mean, really like them? Maya raised her eyebrows. Like romantically? Jake, are you feeling okay? Did you hit your head when you fell? I am serious. I do not know. Elves usually keep to themselves. They think they are better than everyone else because they live so long. Maya studied Jake's face. Why are you asking? Before Jake could answer, there was a soft knock on the door. Come in, Maya called. The door opened, and Jake's heart almost stopped. Lady Arya Moonwhisper walked into the room. She was even more beautiful than he remembered. Her long silver hair seemed to glow in the light. Her clothes were simple today, but they still looked expensive. Her pointed ears and perfect features made it clear she was not human. I hope I am not interrupting, she said in her musical voice. I wanted to check on Mr. Morrison's condition. Maya stood up quickly. Of course, my lady. He is doing much better. He should make a full recovery. I am very glad to hear that. Lady Arya looked directly at Jake. You gave us quite a scare, Mr. Morrison. I am sorry, my lady, I did not mean to cause any trouble. You did not cause trouble. You work too hard because you care about doing a good job. That is admirable, not troublesome. Jake did not know what to say. He had never talked to someone so important before, and definitely not someone who looked like her. May I sit down? Lady Arya asked. Of course, Maya said, offering her chair. Lady Arya sat down gracefully. Mr. Morrison, I have been watching your work on the atmospheric processors. It is truly impressive. Thank you, my lady. Please call me Arya. We are not in my family's court here. Jake felt his face getting hot. I could not do that, it would not be proper. Then call me Lady Arya. But please be comfortable. I am not here as an official representative of the Elven Trade Consortium. I am here as someone who is concerned about your well-being. Maya looked back and forth between Jake and Arya. I should go check on my other patients, she said. Jake, rest. Arya, please make sure he does not try to get up and go back to work. After Maya left, Jake and Arya sat in awkward silence for a moment. How are you feeling? Arya asked. Better. Tired, but better. Good, I was worried about you. Why? The question slipped out before Jake could stop himself. Arya looked surprised. Why was I worried? Yes. I mean, you barely know me. I am just a construction worker. You are not just anything, Mr. Morrison. Jake. She corrected herself. You are an amazing engineer. You care about your work more than anyone I have ever met. You push yourself harder than should be possible. That is just how humans are. No, it is not. I have met many humans since your people arrived on New Haven. Most of them work hard, yes? But you work like the fate of the world depends on you. Personally, Jake looked down at his hands. Maybe it does. This project is supposed to give humans a new home. If I mess up, people might not have a safe place to live. And that matters to you. Of course it does. Arya was quiet for a moment. Jake, can I tell you something? Sure. I have lived for 156 years. In all that time, I have never met anyone who cares about their work the way you do. Most elves, including me, think we have all the time in the world. So we take our time with everything. We plan for decades before we act. We think being careful is more important than being fast. That sounds smart. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it means nothing gets done. We spend so much time planning that we forget to actually build anything. Arya leaned forward. You humans are different. You know your lives are short, so you try to accomplish as much as possible while you can. It is beautiful. Jake felt confused. Beautiful? Yes. When I watch you work, I see someone who believes what he does matters. You work like every day counts because for you every day does count. It makes me want to care about things the way you do. They looked at each other in silence. Jake could not believe this amazing, important, beautiful woman was talking to him like this, and he definitely could not believe she seemed to admire him. Lady Arya, can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you come to the construction sites so often? Commander Zara says you visit more than any other investor. Arya's cheeks turned slightly pink. I come to check on the progress of the project. Really? She was quiet for a long moment, then she sighed. No, not really. I come to watch you work. Jake's heart started pounding. Why? Because I have never seen anything like it. You work with such passion, such dedication. It is like watching an artist create a masterpiece. Arya looked down at her hands. I know it sounds strange. I know elves and humans are not supposed to. But I find myself thinking about you when I am not here. Jake could not believe what he was hearing. You think about me? Yes. And I know it is probably inappropriate. I know there are rules about elves and humans getting too close, but I cannot help it. They sat in silence again. Jake felt like his whole world had just changed. This incredible woman had feelings for him. It seemed impossible, but she had just told him it was true. Lady Arya? Jake spent 3 days in the medical center. Maya made sure he ate real meals and slept for 8 hours each night. For the first time in months, Jake felt like a normal person instead of a machine that only worked. Lady Arya visited him every day. They talked about the construction project, about their different worlds, and about their hopes for New Haven. Jake learned that Arya was not just a rich elf who had nothing to do. She was smart and cared deeply about making the galaxy a better place. On his last day in medical, Jake was sitting by the window when alarms started going off throughout the building. Maya ran into his room. Jake, we have a problem. A big one. What is wrong? A massive storm is coming. The weather station says it will be the worst storm New Haven has ever seen. Winds over 200 miles per hour. Lightning that could fry all our electronics. Jake jumped out of bed. The atmospheric processors. They are not ready for a storm like this. The alien command wants to evacuate everyone and wait for the storm to pass. How long would that take? 2 years. Maybe 3. We would have to start over from the beginning. Jake felt sick. 2 years meant thousands of people would have to wait longer for their new home. It meant all the work he had done would be wasted. There has to be another way, he said. The commanders are meeting in the main conference room right now. They are trying to figure out what to do. Jake started getting dressed. I need to be there. Jake, you just got better. You should rest. I can. Rest after we save the project. Jake and Maya hurried to the conference room. It was full of alien commanders, human engineers, and elven representatives. Everyone was talking at once, and they all looked worried. Commander Zara saw Jake come in. Morrison, you should be resting. I am fine, Commander. What is the situation? Bad. The storm will hit in 18 hours. Our atmospheric processors are not built to handle winds that strong. If we lose them, we lose everything. Jake looked at the big screen showing the weather data. The storm was huge, covering half the planet. The winds were strong enough to destroy buildings. What if we could reinforce the processors? Jake asked. Make them stronger before the storm hits? A tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms spoke up. Impossible. It would take weeks to properly reinforce those machines. Not if we worked outside during the storm, Jake said. The room went quiet. Everyone stared at Jake like he had said something crazy. Work outside during the storm? Commander Zara repeated. Morrison, that would be suicide. Not if we had the right protection. And if we worked fast, the winds alone would kill you, not to mention the lightning. Jake was thinking fast. What if we had weather control? Something to create a safe pocket around the processors while we worked? Humans do not have weather control technology, said the blue alien, but elves do. Everyone turned to look at the elven representatives. There were 3 of them, all wearing fancy robes. They looked uncomfortable. Elven weather magic is very advanced, one of them said carefully. But it requires great skill and concentration, and it is very dangerous to use during a natural storm. Could it be done? Jake asked. Theoretically, Yes, but the elf using the magic would be in great danger. If they lost concentration for even a moment, everyone in the area could die. Jake thought about this. What if the person controlling the weather worked directly with the person reinforcing the machines? If they were partners instead of separate teams? The elven representative frowned. The magic requires complete trust between the user and anyone they are protecting. They would need to work together perfectly. I can do that, Jake said. You are not an elf, Mr. Morrison. You cannot use our magic. But I could work with someone who can. Someone I trust completely. Commander Zara was shaking her head. This is too dangerous. We should evacuate and try again later. Commander, with respect, we cannot wait 2 more years. The people counting on this project cannot wait that long. The room erupted in arguments. Some people thought Jake's plan was crazy. Others thought it might work. The aliens were worried about losing their investment. The humans were worried about losing their new home. In the middle of all the shouting, the door opened and Lady Aria walked in. She was followed by 2 guards, but she ignored them and walked straight to the front of the room. "Excuse me," she said in her clear voice. Everyone stopped talking and turned to look at her. "I could not help but overhear your discussion about the storm," Aria continued. "And I have a suggestion." "Lady Aria," one of the elven representatives said, "this is not a matter for the trade consortium to—" "Actually it is," Aria interrupted. "My family has invested heavily in this project. If it fails, we lose everything. So I have a right to speak." She looked around the room until her eyes found Jake. "Mr. Morrison, you said you could work with an elf who can control weather. Did you have someone specific in mind?" Jake felt his heart racing. "I was hoping you might know someone who would be willing to try." Aria smiled. "I do. Me." The room exploded with voices again. The elven representatives looked shocked. The alien commanders looked confused. Jake looked amazed. "Lady Aria," the elven representative said, "you cannot be serious. Weather magic during a storm like this could kill you. So could losing this project," Aria replied calmly. "Besides, I trust Mr. Morrison. If anyone can make this work, he can." Commander Zara held up her hand for silence. "Let me understand. This. You want to work outside during a killer storm using untested magic to save machines that might not even survive anyway?" "Yes," Jake and Aria said at the same time. "It is insane." "Maybe," Jake said. "But it is also our only chance to save 2 years of work and thousands of people's futures." The room was quiet while everyone thought about this. Finally, Commander Zara spoke. "If we try this plan and it fails, you both die, and we still lose the project. If we do not try," Aria said, "we definitely lose the project. At least this way, we have a chance." The alien commanders talked quietly among themselves. The elven representatives did the same. Jake and Aria waited. Finally, Commander Zara stood up. "Against my better judgment, we will try your plan. But I want every safety measure possible. I want backup teams ready. And if anything goes wrong, we pull you out immediately." "Understood," Jake said. "Lady Aria, are you sure about this?" One of the elven representatives asked. "I am sure," Aria replied. "Mr. Morrison and I will need some time to prepare. We need to understand each other's methods and plan our approach." "How long do you need?" Commander Zara asked. Jake looked at Aria. 6 hours to plan, then 12 hours to do the work. We can finish just before the worst part of the storm hits." "That gives us no room for error," the blue alien pointed out. "Then, we will not make any errors," Aria said firmly. The meeting broke up with everyone hurrying to prepare. Jake and Aria were left alone in the conference room. "Are you really sure about this?" Jake asked. The representatives were right. You could die. So could you. But you are willing to risk it because you believe in this project. It is different. For me, I am just a worker. You are important. You have a family, responsibilities. Aria stepped closer to Jake. "Do you know what I told my family when I decided to come to New Haven?" "What?" "I told them I was tired of watching other people do important things while I stood on the sidelines. I told them I wanted to matter." She looked into Jake's eyes. Working with you. Saving this project. This matters. Jake felt something warm in his chest. We can do this. I know we can. But first you need to understand how elven magic works, and I need to understand exactly what you plan to do to those machines. They spent the next 6 hours working together more closely than Jake had ever worked with anyone. Arya explained how her weather magic could create a bubble of calm air around them, but only if she could concentrate completely. Jake showed her exactly which parts of the atmospheric processors needed to be reinforced and how long each step would take. The hardest part will be the lightning, Arya said. I can redirect most of it, but not all. You will have to work fast when I tell you to move. I can do fast. And if something goes wrong, if I lose control for even a second, you have to trust me completely. Do not think, do not hesitate, just do exactly what I say. I trust you, Arya smiled. And I trust you. Now let us go save this planet. As they prepared to head out into the storm, Jake realized something had changed between them. They were not just an elf and a human anymore. They were partners, and maybe something more. Outside, the wind was already getting stronger. In a few hours, they would either be heroes or they would be dead. Jake had never felt more alive. The storm hit New Haven like an angry giant. Jake had never seen anything like it. The wind was so loud he could barely hear his own thoughts. Rain fell sideways, hitting like bullets. Lightning turned the dark sky bright white every few seconds. Jake and Arya stood at the edge of the atmospheric processor field. They wore special suits to protect them from the weather, but Jake knew the suits would not be enough. Only Arya's magic could keep them alive out there. Are you ready? Arya shouted over the wind. Jake nodded. He carried a bag full of tools and metal braces. His job was to attach the braces to weak points on the processors. The braces would make the machine strong enough to survive the storm. Remember, Arya said, stay close to me. Do not go more than 10 feet away or my magic cannot protect you. Got it. Arya closed her eyes and raised her hands. Jake felt the air around them change. The wind was still howling everywhere else, but around them it became calm. It was like standing inside an invisible bubble. Amazing, Jake whispered. Do not get distracted, Arya said through gritted teeth. This takes all my focus. Start working. Jake ran to the first atmospheric processor. It was a huge machine, as tall as a building. The wind was shaking it hard. Without the braces, it would fall over soon. Jake worked as fast as he had ever worked in his life. He drilled holes in the metal and attached the first brace. The machine stopped shaking as much. Good behind him, Arya stood perfectly still. Her eyes were closed and her hands glowed with soft blue light. Sweat ran down her face despite the cold rain. Jake could see that holding the magic was hurting her. First one done, Jake called. Good. Next one. They moved to the second processor. This one was closer to the center of the storm. The lightning was getting worse. Jake saw a bolt hit the ground just 50 feet away. The thunder was so loud it made his ears ring. As Jake worked on the second machine, something went wrong. A piece of flying metal hit Arya in the shoulder. She stumbled and cried out in pain. The calm bubble around them flickered. Suddenly, Jake felt the full force of the storm. Wind tried to knock him over. Rain stung his face like needles. Arya, he shouted. I am okay, she called back. But Jake could see blood on her suit. The flying metal had cut her badly. Arya raised her hands again. The blue light was weaker now, but the calm bubble came back. You are hurt, Jake said. I can keep going. Keep working. Jake finished the second brace, but he was worried about Arya. She was getting weaker, and they still had 8 more processors to fix. Third one, Arya said. They moved again. This time, the processor was right in the middle of the storm. Lightning was hitting the ground all around them. The thunder was constant now, like the sky was breaking apart. Jake started working on the third machine, but the braces were getting harder to attach. His hands were cold and wet. The tools kept slipping. Jake, lightning, Arya screamed. Jake looked up and saw a massive bolt of electricity coming straight at them. He threw himself flat on the ground. The lightning hit the processor right where his head had been a second before. Too close, he gasped. Much too close. This storm is getting stronger than I expected. Jake could hear the strain in Arya's voice. Keeping them safe was using up all her energy. Her face was pale, and the blue light around her hands was fading. Maybe we should go back, Jake said. No. We are halfway done. We can finish this. Jake looked at her face and saw something that scared him. Her eyes were starting to lose focus. She was pushing herself too hard, just like he had done a few days ago. Arya, you need to rest. I cannot rest. If I stop the magic, the storm will kill us both. They moved to the fourth processor. Arya stumbled as they walked. She was getting too weak to keep going. Arya, please, let us go back and try again later. There will not be a later. This storm will destroy everything if we do not finish now. Jake started working on the fourth brace, but he kept watching Arya. She was swaying on her feet. The blue light was flickering like a candle in the wind. As Jake worked, he thought about what Arya had said earlier. She had told him she wanted to matter. She wanted to do something important instead of just watching other people work. Jake understood that feeling. That was why he pushed himself so hard. That was why he worked when he should rest, because the work mattered more than his own safety. But now he was watching someone else make the same choice. And he realized how it felt to care about someone who was risking everything. Fourth one done, Jake called. Good. 6 more to go. They moved to the fifth processor. Arya was breathing hard now. Each step looked like it hurt her. Arya, talk to me. How are you feeling? Like I am trying to hold back an ocean with my bare hands. You are amazing. I do not feel amazing. I feel like I am dying. Jake's heart clenched. Please let us stop. No, you would not stop. Would you? If our positions were reversed? Jake thought about it. If he was the one with magic and Arya needed him to keep going to save the project, would he stop, even if it was killing him? No, he admitted. I would not stop. Then you understand why I cannot stop either. They reached the fifth processor. Jake started working, but his hands were shaking. Not from the cold, but from fear. Fear that Arya was going to collapse just like he had. As he attached the brace, Jake heard Arya make a sound like she was in pain. He turned and saw her fall to her knees. Arya, do not stop working, she gasped. I can still hold the magic. But Jake could see that she could not hold it much longer. The calm bubble around them was getting smaller. The storm was pushing in from all sides. I'm almost done with this one, Jake said. Hurry. Jake worked faster than he ever had before. He had to finish before Arya collapsed completely. The fifth brace snapped into place. Done. Can you stand? Arya tried to get up but fell back down. I do not think so. Jake dropped his tools and ran to her. That is it. We are going back. No, Jake. We are so close. I do not care. I am not letting you die for this. Arya looked up at him. Her face was white with exhaustion, but her eyes were still determined. Jake, listen to me. This project is not just about making a home for humans. It is about proving that different species can work together. If we fail now, it will be years before anyone tries something like this again. I do not care about the project anymore. I care about you. The words came out before Jake could stop them. But as soon as he said them, he knew they were true. Arya's eyes went wide. You care about me? Yes. More than the project. More than anything. But you have worked so hard. I worked hard because I thought the work was the most important thing in my life. But I was wrong. You are the most important thing. Arya smiled through her exhaustion. You are the most important thing to me, too. They looked at each other in the middle of the storm. Jake realized that somewhere along the way, he had fallen in love with this brave, beautiful elf. And she had fallen in love with him, too. So what do we do now? Arya asked. Jake thought about it. We finish this together, but we do it smart. Can you hold the magic for 5 more minutes? Maybe. Why? Because I have an idea. What if instead of moving to each processor, I bring the braces to you? You stay here and keep the magic going. I run out, attach a brace, and run back. It will be faster. That is too dangerous. If you get caught outside my protection, I will not. I am fast, remember? And this way you do not have to move. Arya was quiet for a moment. It might work. It will work. Trust me. I do trust you. But Jake, if something happens to you out there, nothing will happen, I promise. Jake kissed Arya's forehead. Then he grabbed his tools and ran into the storm. The wind hit him like a wall. Rain blinded him. Lightning crashed around him. But Jake kept running. He reached the 6th processor, attached the brace in record time, and ran back to Arya. One down, he gasped. You are crazy, Arya said. But she was smiling. Jake did it again, and again. Each time he ran faster. Each time he came back safely. By the time he finished the 8th processor, Arya was looking stronger. 2 more, Jake said. I can make it. Jake ran to the 9th processor. This one was the farthest away. As he worked, a huge bolt of lightning hit the ground next to him. The shock knocked him down. Jake! Arya screamed. I am okay. Jake got up and kept working. The brace snapped into place. 1 more to go. The last processor was the biggest one. Jake ran to it through the worst part of the storm. As he worked, he felt something change in the air around him. Arya's magic was fading. Arya, hold on. I am trying. Jake worked faster than humanly possible. His hands moved like machines. The last brace was almost attached when Arya's magic finally gave out. The storm hit Jake with full force. Wind knocked him down. Lightning struck the processor right above his head. Rain poured down like a waterfall. But Jake did not stop. He crawled to the brace and snapped it into place with his last bit of strength. Done, he screamed into the storm. Then everything went black. When Jake woke up, he was back in the medical center. Maya was standing over him, looking worried and angry at the same time. You idiot, she said. I cannot believe you survived that. Did it work? Jake asked weakly. See for yourself. Maya helped Jake sit up. Through the window, he could see the atmospheric processors. All of them were still standing. The storm had passed and they had survived. We did it, Jake whispered. You did more than that, Maya said. You saved the entire project, and you proved that humans and elves can work together. Jake spent 2 more days in the medical center. This time he did not mind resting. His body needed time to heal from the storm, and his mind needed time to understand what had happened. He and Arya had saved the atmospheric processors. More than that, they had proven something important. Humans and elves could work together as partners, not just as employers and workers. On Jake's last morning in medical, Arya came to visit him. She looked much better than the last time he had seen her. Her skin had color again and her eyes were bright. How are you feeling? She asked, sitting in the chair next to his bed. Much better. How about you? The same. Using that much weather magic was exhausting, but I feel stronger now. They sat quietly for a moment. Jake knew they needed to talk about what had happened between them during the storm. They had both said things that could not be taken back. Arya, Jake started, about what we said during the storm. Do you regret saying it? She interrupted. No. Do you? No. I meant every word. Jake felt relief. So did I. Good. Because we need to talk about what happens next. Before Jake could answer, the door opened and Commander Zara walked in. She was followed by several other aliens and a tall elf that Jake did not recognize. Morrison, Lady Arya, Commander, Zara said, I hope you are both feeling better. We are, Commander, Jake replied. Good, because we have some news to share with you. Commander Zara gestured to the tall elf. This is Elder Valandil from the Elven High Council. Elder Valandil stepped forward. He was very old, even for an elf. His long white hair and serious expression made him look important and powerful. Lady Arya, Elder Valandil said formally, your actions during the storm have been reported to the High Council. Arya looked nervous. Yes, Elder. Working so closely with a human, risking your life for a project that benefits their species more than ours. Some members of the council are not pleased. Jake felt his heart sink. Were they in trouble for what they had done? However, Elder Valendil continued, the results speak for themselves. The atmospheric processors are working perfectly. The terraforming project is ahead of schedule. And most importantly, your partnership with Mr. Morrison has created a new model for cooperation between our species. Arya blinked in surprise. Elder? The High Council has decided to officially approve your new role as Elven Ambassador for Human-Elf Relations. You will work directly with human engineers on future projects throughout the galaxy. Jake could not believe what he was hearing. Really? Commander Zara smiled, which was unusual for her. That is not all. The Galactic Construction Guild wants to create a new division specifically for human-elf engineering teams. They want Morrison to lead the human side. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means you and Lady Arya will travel to different worlds, working on terraforming and construction projects together. You will be partners officially. Jake looked at Arya. She was smiling so brightly that she seemed to glow. There is one more thing, Elder Valandil said. The High Council has also decided to change some of our old rules about relationships between elves and humans. Jake's heart started beating faster. What kind of changes? Previously, such relationships were forbidden. But your partnership has shown us that elves and humans can bring out the best in each other. The Council has decided that personal relationships between our species should be allowed as long as both parties are willing. Jake felt like he might faint again, but this time from happiness instead of exhaustion. Are you saying, Arya began, I am saying that if two people from different species care about each other and want to be together, the Elven High Council will not stand in their way. Jake and Arya looked at each other. Everything they had hoped for was suddenly possible. There is just one condition, Elder Valendil added. Your relationship must continue to serve as a positive example of cooperation between humans and elves. You will be watched by many people. Your success or failure will affect how our species work together in the future. We understand, Arya said firmly. And we accept, Jake added. Commander Zara pulled out a data pad. Your first assignment is on Kepler 442b. It is a desert planet that needs a complete atmospheric overhaul. The project will take 2 years. When do we start? Jake asked. In 1 month. That gives you time to recover fully and plan your approach. After everyone left, Jake and Arya sat alone in the medical room. I cannot believe this is happening, Jake said. Which part? The job or us? Both. A month ago, I was just a construction worker trying to prove that humans were worth hiring. Now I'm going to be working with the most amazing woman in the galaxy on projects across space. Arya laughed. A month ago, I was a bored elf heiress watching other people do important work. Now I'm going to be saving planets with the most dedicated man I have ever met. Are you sure about this? Working together, being together, it will not be easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, you taught me that. Jake reached out and took Arya's hand. So we are really going to do this? We are really going to do this. 6 months later, Jake and Arya stood on the observation deck of their transport ship. Below them, Kepler 442b was slowly changing from brown to green. Their atmospheric processors were working perfectly. In another year, the planet would be ready for its first human and elf colonists. Look at that, Arya said, pointing to a section where small plants were already growing. Beautiful, Jake replied. But he was not looking at the planet. He was looking at her. Jake Morrison, are you even paying attention to our work? I am paying attention to my partner. Arya smiled and moved closer to him. Your partner in work or your partner in life? Both. They had been working together for 6 months now. Every day, Jake was amazed by how well they fit together. Arya's careful planning balanced his tendency to rush into things. His practical skills complemented her theoretical knowledge. And there, different perspectives helped them solve problems that neither could have handled alone. Maya sent a message, Arya said. The New Haven colony now has 50,000 people living there safely, all because you would not give up on those atmospheric processors. All because we would not give up, Jake corrected. You are right. We did that together. Jake thought about how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been working alone, pushing himself to exhaustion, trying to prove that humans deserved respect in the galaxy. Now he was part of a team that was changing how different species worked together. "Do you ever miss your old life?" Jake asked. "The fancy parties, the easy schedule, the time to think about everything for decades before acting?" "Never." "Do you miss working alone? No one to worry about except yourself?" "Never." They stood together watching their planet change. In a few hours, they would go back to work. There were still atmospheric processors to build, weather patterns to control, and soil to prepare for farming. It was hard work that would take months to finish, but they would do it together. And when they were done, they would move on to the next impossible project. Then the next one after that. "Jake?" "Yes?" "I love you. I love you too." As they watched, the sun set over Kepler 442b's new atmosphere. For the first time in the planet's history, the sunset was clear and beautiful. Tomorrow, that sun would rise on a world that was becoming a home. Jake squeezed Arya's hand. They had more work to do, more planets to save, more impossible things to accomplish. But they would face all of it together, and that, Jake thought, was the most amazing thing of all. 6 months after that, Jake and Arya received a message that made them both laugh. It was from Maya, who was now running the medical center on New Haven. "Jake, you will not believe this," the message said. "We just got our first request from an alien species asking specifically for a human-elf engineering team. Apparently, word has spread about what you two accomplished. Other worlds want their own miracle workers." The message continued. "Also, I have some personal news. I am dating a Cathari engineer named Lieutenant Kess. Turns out Jake is not the only human who can fall in love with someone from another species. You two started something big." Jake and Arya looked at each other and smiled. "I think we did," Arya said. "I think we are just getting started," Jake replied. They were right. Over the next few years, human-elf engineering teams became common throughout the galaxy. Other species started forming similar partnerships. The old barriers between different peoples began to break down. Jake and Arya became the most famous engineering team in known space. They terraformed 12 planets, built 6 space stations, and solved dozens of impossible problems. But more importantly, they proved that love and cooperation could overcome any obstacle. Years later, when young humans and elves learned about the history of interspecies cooperation, they always heard the story of Jake Morrison and Lady Arya Moonwhisper, the human who worked too hard and the elf who taught him to work smart, the engineer and the heiress who saved a planet together and changed the galaxy forever. And if those young people were very lucky, they might meet Jake and Arya themselves. Because even decades later, the two of them were still working together, still solving impossible problems and still proving that the best things in life happen when different people choose to trust each other completely. The end.